stuff we're getting. So anyway, we're going to paint something cheery and bright anyway. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. This is my Craft Around the Clock segment. I'm Yvette from Old Times Paint Parties. If you're new to my page, let me know. And if you are not a member of the Craft Around the Clock group, please, by all means, go to the link at the top of this post and go over there and join that page. All right. That's the blurb. We got it out. So I'm just going to start. Oh my goodness. If the lights start flickering, like I said, we're kind of in a little bit of a stormy situation here right now. It's just starting. So hopefully it holds off for the next 45 minutes. Anyway. We'll hope that it does. Hello, ladies. Thanks for joining. I'm just going to grab a little bit of, oh heck, where is it? Oh heck. Well, I'm going to have to use some burnt umber because I thought I brought over my gel stain, but I don't see it. So we'll use some burnt umber. It will work. We're going to stain this background a little bit and we're going to set this aside, but we want to get this on here so we get it drying. So I'm just going to take my wet wipe and some of this burnt umber and we're just going to stain this background a little smidge. I had it in my hand too. That's funny. I must have left it over there. I don't even know what I did with it. There's no time to go chasing after it. We'll just use this. Just add in a little bit of extra water to my wet wipe so that we can get this spread out here. If I don't see your comments, I will check later. They are a little wonky still, so I don't know what the heck. If I miss them, don't think that I am ignoring you. I am not. They come in here sporadically, and I don't know why. FB's not liking me lately. Playing tricks with me, playing games with me. All right, so we're getting that little spot left here, and then we'll set this aside to dry a bit while we're working on our other pieces. And I do want to, oh, look at those lights flickering. Oh my goodness, guys, I might lose you. I might lose you. Cross your fingers, the power stays on. All right, so I'm getting a clean one because I'm gonna try to pull some of that. I don't want it to be, super, super dark. So I'm just gonna pull some of that off, lighten it up a little bit while it's still wet. I think that will do. All right, that looks pretty good. It kind of grabs the wood grain where it feels like, and that's okay. I said I couldn't find it. That's because it was like right directly in front of me. Oh my goodness. It's okay. The burnt umber worked. It's all fine. It's fine. It's okay. I'm good. Oh, heavens. I do have a time. I swear. Hello, everybody that's popping in. Hi, Miss Laura. Hi, Karina. There's my girls. Okay. So I'm just getting my green tape down here so we can have something to stick our pieces to so they don't get away on us. I'll get a couple strips of that down here. So we're here till 10. So hopefully we can get a good portion, if not all of this done. Now I need that little piece there. So these little dots here are for my watermelon. And I just have to pop out these seeds. There's a little tab on these, so I'm just going to pop these out of here, hopefully. Who's saying new to my page? Thank you, Kelly, for sprinkling. Oh, Wanda, thanks for joining. All right, so we're going to paint this. Now, I wanted to do this with some wild berry because it's kind of like more watermelon colored, but I didn't have enough. So I'm going to use some royal fuchsia on this. I think it should be okay. I'm thinking it should be fine. That's what we're using anyway. It's going to be, yeah, I think so. I think it should be good. Just using my sponge to get this on here. Oh my goodness, I burnt myself on my straightener tonight, and I swear I took fingerprints off. It hurts so much. That's gonna blister. Have you ever done that? Zinged yourself with a straightening iron? It hurt. So my fingers are stinging. I didn't have time to ice them before I came on. I hopefully will survive. Okay, we'll give this a dry. Hello, Latasha. This is pretty bright pink. We'll tone it down. Oh, that heat on my sore fingers does not feel good. Hi, Barbara. All right, we're going to put a second coat on here because that first one kind of sinks right on in there. And then we'll set this aside and we'll just get all of these pieces based first, and then we'll come back and do a little fun stuff with them. So this one will be our Thrifty Thursday project. So it will be on discount tomorrow. I'll have it posted tonight to pop up for tomorrow. But if you are interested in this one, it will be on sale on the page tomorrow. All right, so let's set that aside. And I think I'm going to base my sun. Trying to keep all of these little circles separate because some are for the watermelon and some are for the sun. So let's just keep those over on that side, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to put some bright yellow on this piece. And I think what I'm going to do first, let me just say, I'm going to put some buttermilk on here first because this yellow is super transparent and I don't want to be here putting coat after coat after coat on here. So I'm going to put a little bit of this buttermilk on here first. See if that helps with my yellow coverage. See if this little trick works. And then we'll give that a quick dry, and then we'll put some yellow on top of there and see how that works out. That was royal fuchsia, this color, royal fuchsia, yeah. Like I was saying, I wanted to use some of the wild berry, which I think would have worked really well too. But I'm like literally almost empty. I have to get some more of that. It's one of my favorite colors. But there's hardly a squirt left in there at all. All right, I think that's good enough. Watching me dry paint all night, so I'm going to grab a clean sponge, and now I'm going to grab my bright yellow. I think this is, yeah, this is bright yellow. Bright yellow, and that should help. I think it'll work out nicely. We'll still have to put a couple coats on here, but I think it will be a little bit better. You could even put white under there, but I kind of want it to be more of that banana color, so I think the buttermilk under there works good. You can see how transparent this color really is when you're dabbing it on here. We'd have been here, putting coat after coat after coat on here. And we don't have time for that foolishness. Those shenanigans. So these are the bigger pieces. So I think, you know, we should be well on our way once we get these bigger pieces based. All right, let me get this dry because I want to put another coat on here of that yellow. I think my comments are actually working, amazingly enough. That dried super fast. Yeah, that second coat's going on a little better there. And then we can set this aside, and then we're going to work on that watermelon rind. It goes on the bottom edge. Running out of me some yellow. Alrighty, almost there. Almost there. So we'll let this dry over there. If we have to put another coat on it, I don't think we will, but we're going to do a little bit of something else to this with some shading and dry brushing and things. So I think that should be good for that. So let us get that off of there. We're going to put this way up here at the top to dry up there. So then we're going to come over here. I have our lettering, but under here we have our watermelon rind. So I'm going to put some of the Hauser Medium on here. I'm going to find a clean sponge. And I'm going to go right on my background of my lettering too with this color. And of course, we're going to put a second coat on here too. Hello, Miss Donna. I see you popping in there. So we need to get a little more of this. A little better coverage with the second coat. Always with the second coat. These pieces of wood really soak in that first coat. Always needs to. All right, we'll let that dry. We're going to do our lettering. Be very careful when you're pulling off your tape. You don't want to snap your pieces. My lettering I'm going to do in white. Got a T in here somewhere too. This is kind of the boring stuff, you know, when you're just base coating. We want to get to the fun stuff, so I'm trying my best to hurry this not so fun stuff. I'll get it over with. This is my least favorite base coating. I love to do the shading part and all of that stuff. This is the necessary part that we have to do. Okay, I think that's good for that. The top of that T. We'll just get these set aside. Oh, itchy nose. And then we also have the sweet word. I'm going to do that in white right this minute while we are here with the white in our hand. Dry that quick. Just got out of church, did you? We're doing a little summertime sign right now. You know, you guys are getting some wicked storms in the south tonight too, I saw online. We're getting a little ice. They're supposed to get a little ice soon enough. You guys are, what, under tornado watch in the south, I think? Anybody from there? If you are, please be safe in that mess. Storms are starting really early this year. All right, so we'll sit that up there as well. Now we have our little seeds, and I'm going to do those with some burnt umber. And we have some of that out here, so just use that. And then we have our little dots for our watermelon. Not sure which side's what. Yes, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to use a lighter pink for this. And I think I'm going to go with this bubblegum pink. I don't even know if they make this color anymore, but I still have some kicking around, so we're going to use it. Always just use what you have. There's so many, you know, paint colors that we collect. I know I do. I have a plethora of colors that are no longer no longer made, but it's a nice way to use them, doing up these little signs. Okay. And then my yellow ones I'm going to do with a lighter yellow. And I have this little, I think this is a dollar store paint. It's Daffodil Yellow. It's still Decor, but it's one of the dollar store brand. And it's a little bit lighter than that bright yellow. So we're going to try that. See how that works out. Okay, so we have our pink ones. So we just have to do our yellow dots and we should be good to go for some shading. So there's a lot more of the yellow ones. Excuse me while I'm reaching over. There we go. Just make sure I get the right side. I've been known to paint the wrong sides by accident. Right on. Okay, so let's get some of this lighter yellow out. So it's more of a, I don't know, more like a banana cream, that dollar store one. And if you know banana cream, it's a lovely color, one of my favorites. And I don't think they make that anymore either, which is it was a sad day. Where are we at for time? We need to get to shading. Get some shading happening. Picking up some green by accident. All right, let's dry that and we'll get another coat on there. And I'm going to cut the end off of this because I got some green on there and it's going over into my yellow, which I don't want. All right, we'll get this second coat on here and then, yes, Baby Duck is really close to that same color, that banana cream too. Super, super close to it. It is a nice one. All right, I think that should do it. We'll get those set aside. And we're going to bring that watermelon back over here and do a little shading on that. And a little dry brushing. All these yellow dots. Crazy pants. All right, so let's bring this back over here. So I'm going to use a little bit of this Cherry Merlot. I just want to put a little bit of a dark edge down here. So let's get to the fun stuff before we run out of time. All right, so I can get my angled brush. I have to set this up here for a second. Just along this bottom edge here, I'm going to put a little bit of that darker color. All around these little jagged edges. And I'm just kind of scuffing that along that edge of the wood. Okay, I'll dry that, and I want to dry brush a little bit of that light pink, that lighter pink that we have there in here around my center. I'm just going to grab my stencil brush, a little bit of pink, get that dry on there. And we'll just dry brush some of that in and around my little dots. Just gotta get that bit of paint worked in there. There we have it. Now it's coming out of there. So I just kind of want to go in all these areas that my dots aren't going to touch. Hi, Cecile. I haven't seen you in a bit. This just kind of changes that whole look of that piece. Now it looks kind of strange here, but that's where that little circle is going to come in here in a second. Those little dots. All right, we won't go too much more overboard there. All right, so our dots are going to go on here. So they're kind of bright right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade the edges with a little bit of white. We're going to tone that down just a smidgen. Not quite that far in, but I'm going to put a little bit of a white highlight on there just to tone them down a little bit instead of leaving them just stark pink. And then we have this little tiny one to go, and we'll go on the bottom edge of this one. Again, shading them just changes the whole look of the pieces, in my opinion. You know, you can leave them plain if you like that look, but I kind of like to add a little extra something in here. All right, let's dry those. We have our little seeds. So we can kind of place these on here, see how they're going to look. I'm liking that. All right, and our seeds, I want to take a little smidge of black. And I'm going to put that just down here on that bottom edge of these. And I'm also going to highlight the top edge just a little bit with some white. Maybe. Okay, now we're going to place this piece on here. And as we go, we'll get these kind of, whoops, there's our holes up there. We'll get these placed on here. So we're going to put our little seeds in there. Maybe they have these little tabs on there from when I pop them out. We'll get them in there, don't you worry. They came out of there, they're going to have to go back in there. I'm thinking it might be, this one doesn't like to be here. Maybe it's over here it wants to be. Maybe not. Oh my goodness. Get in there, you silly thing. There we go. Okay, so there's that portion. So we're going to move on to our sun. It's like the biggest piece, so we'll get that done and we'll sit that on top of the other. So for this one, I want to, let me grab this brush. I want to add a little bit of that lighter. I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference. Yeah, well, I can see it. I'm liking it. Now, I don't know if you can see it really well, but I'm just dry brushing some of that lighter yellow kind of on here. I have so much pink on my hands. We'll get this on here first, and then I'm just going to shade that bottom edge a little bit with, what am I going to shade that with? Maybe some marigold or something a little darker. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but on camera there, but it's definitely is there. You can always add a little white to it as well. Let's go in with a little white. Okay, let's clean that out. Now I have some darker yellow here. I'm not sure if this is what I want, but maybe we'll see how that works. I don't want to put anything too dark on this bottom edge. Oh, that might work. I don't know. Wish I had my antique gold close by. But we're going to go with this for now. And then I'm going to put some, oh my lord. My lord. Did I get myself? I did. Painting myself. My brush got away on me. Okay, so there's our sun. Now, same with these little dots here. I want to, now I have to kind of see where they're at. I want to add a little bit of yellow on one side and a little bit of white on the other. yellow did I go in there? Let's see how this works out. It's a funny little piece there. Little cornery sort of piece. There's a lot of yellow dots. All right, let's dry those and we'll get a little white on the other side. So we'll just go in with a little highlight of white on the opposite side of these little dots. And we can always add a highlight line as well, which I probably will. I may not get to that on the live, but if I don't get this finished, I will pop up a photo of the finished product. We'll get as far as we can in the next 8 minutes. I think that one goes here. I'm not sure that one goes there. It's like a little puzzle. We're putting a little puzzle together. And then we have our little funny corner piece here that goes there. All right, so let's get this popped on in to our background here and see how that's looking. So that's how it's going. It's looking pretty good so far. So we just have to do that little piece goes together there. Whoops. So we'll just do our little rind. But I'm thinking that looks pretty cute so far. All right, over here, we'll get some of that dark green out. I think we might just squeak by. We might get it done. We might get it done. So I'm going to take some of the dark green and I'm going to go along the bottom edge of all of this. Now this might just peek out behind our letters, so mainly this rind here will be showing. I need to get rid of that tape. It's most annoying. And this side of the rind over here. All right, we'll dry that, and then I'm going to put a little bit of the light green on the top edge. So this is just to sort of simulate what the watermelon rind will look like. And we're going to do a little stripes on here as well on these end pieces. We can add that as well. See if we can get this top portion done first. Being all difficult. And you can always add a little more when it's dry because it tends to fade down a little bit. So for the, let's see, I have a sort of striped edge on there. You can take a flat brush. And you know how watermelons sort of have those little striped edges. You can just dry brush a little bit of that. Like on there, like so. For the heck of it. All right, we can place this piece and then we can get our letters done. How are we doing? We got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Pop in there. Be nice to me. Be nice to me. Here we go. So far, so good. It's looking pretty good. So now we're going to put our letters on here. But I always like to do a little something to my letters as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that Hauser light green, I think, and go along the bottom edge of my letters. We're going to see how that looks. Because they just seem so bare to me if I don't put a little shading on here. It's just my thoughts. Let's put a little bit of that light green on there. And if we don't like it, I mean, we can change it. It's just paint. We'll paint over it. And we'll start over. But if, you know, we like it, it's a bonus. Two minutes, my friends. 2 minutes. The countdown is on. We'll get our sweet out here too. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm going to love this because I don't know yet. We'll see what it looks like once we get it on our actual spot where it needs to be. And this little dot here, we can put a little bit on that too. I got to really hold that tight though. All right, let's see what that's going to do. I think I like it. I think I do. Let me get it up in the camera here. And this one I think I'm going to put, you know, about here-ish. And I think I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to maybe put a little bit of yellow on the bottom edge of that sweet word. But that, I'm liking the green. I think it looks pretty good. And then this one, I think, like I said, I'll put a little bit of just a smidge of yellow on the bottom edge. And I'll go with the lighter yellow. And then I think our time is up. And I'll probably add a few little, like I said, highlight lines with my liner brush too. But I think my time is up, ladies. I just want to get this painted and put it on there so you can see the final thing without my plate in the way and all that goodness. All right, let's get this in place. Let's move that silly plate and move this down. So I think just like that. I think that turned out pretty good. What do you say you? What say you? All right, my time has come to an end. Thank you so much for joining in and watching my segment. And make sure you pop over to the Craft Around the Clock group and watch the next presenter.